Dark Souls franchise, the Trilogy, on the Steam Deck OLED. If you want to see how it runs on the LCD deck, link in the description. Dark Souls Remastered, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, Dark Souls 3, and that's basically it. I also have the Prepare to Die edition, that is the original PC port, no longer available for purchase. And there's another version of Dark Souls 2, but we're using the latest one that has some changes, so let's get into it right away. Dark Souls Remastered, so 800p native resolution, says 90Hz, but the game is actually locked to 60 no matter what, so leave that as is. Basically everything on the highest except the motion blur. And one tweak that I recommend is that you go here and put the frame limit to 60. It's really not necessary to have it at 90, just because of the fact that the game doesn't run above 60, so save some battery and keep it at 60 Hz. And of course I'm down here in Blacktown on purpose. This used to be the most demanding area. Now it's no longer the case. It's on a couple boss fights. I think the Sif boss fight is one of the taxing ones. But hey, 800p. I played this on the ROG Ally on 1080p. Whoops. And it was okay. Of course, this game is old, but it's also remastered. They fixed the performance issues in Blacktown, which was displaced in the original PC port. It's below 30 no matter what. So yeah, good stuff. And according to this, we got like 4 hours of battery, 3.5 to 4 hours, I would say. Highly depends on what's going on screen. And when we're loading other parts of the level, it 100% one of our cores, but it's fine. So yeah, Dark Souls 1 Remastered, 3.5 hours of battery, give or take. Lock it to 60 Hz to get the best results, because the game doesn't go above that. And on the OLED screen it looks absolutely beautiful, as usual, because this game is very dark. Let me show you another area. This area is pretty boring looking. Okay, I'm back up in Firelink Shrine. This, I think, shows the best colors. Because again, Blacktown is completely dark and blight. And as you can see here, we are completely fine when it comes to performance as well. No issues whatsoever. So yeah, it's basically 60, 3.5 to 4 hours of battery, give or take. And it's completely stable and looks awesome on the smaller screen. Let's jump into the next one. For Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, 800p once again, highest settings. I just disable camera motion blur because it's a little bit annoying, at least in my opinion. And there's an issue with this one. Despite selecting 800p, we get black bars at the top and bottom of the screen. On the OLED Steam Deck it's harder to notice, but it's there. Unlike in the previous game, since we're locked to 60, put it at 60 Hz, save some battery. And again, the main issue is those black bars. Again, on the OLED Steam Deck, I don't think it's a big deal at all, since the completely black pixels, when it says basically 100% black, it means that the pixels are turned off. So it just looks like a smaller screen. The black bars are basically that, at least when it comes to the Steam Deck OLED, luckily. But just a reminder, it's basically forced 16:9 no matter what you do. But this game runs completely fine, looks pretty good, it's very freaking strong, and I have a very terrible weapon. Alright. Let's see another area. As I've showed you on multiple Dark Souls games, we usually go into the toxic wasteland areas. And this is where I dropped frames back in the day when I played this game for the first time. Nowadays, it's a walk in the park for the GPU. The GPU just does not care at all, which is a good thing. But this level is still very annoying. So yeah, completely fine. Now, boss fight, that was very easy back then. Now I'm probably going to lose. I haven't played this game in a while. Yeah, I mean, the weapon that I'm using... but as I was saying, this is where I dropped frames back then, due to the fire effects and all that, plus to the camera. Now it's a non-issue. As you can probably notice, the Forest of the Fallen Giants. The frame times are a little bit less consistent, but as you can see, funnily enough, this game uses less battery than the first Dark Souls. I mean, this game runs on basically anything at this point, so it's like 5 hours of battery, not even on a full charge, well, almost a full charge. So more than 4.5 hours of battery when it comes to Dark Souls 2. But we got that issue with the black bars at the top and bottom of the screen because the game is forced 16:9. Otherwise, completely enjoyable game, nice colors, really helps to have that OLED panel, especially for, again, the darker sections. Yeah, ha ha ha, Dark Souls, dark, ha 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 ha. So, but jokes aside, it's really impressive to look at, in my opinion, with this screen. Looks awesome. But it does help that I played this, I mean, all the way back from PlayStation 3, then the PC version. I've been here for a while. So yeah. If you haven't played it, I recommend it. Most people say that this is the Dark Souls they hate the most. But you have the option to play 1, 2, and 3, so nothing of value was lost. But you get a lot of battery life out of this one. It's just weird that some of the frame times are a bit spiky sometimes. And finally, Dark Souls 3, 800p. On the advanced settings, it's something like this. You can put it on high if you want to. Visually, it's almost the same, but this gives us a few extra frames. Well, it's full screen, but as you can see now, there's still black bars at the top and bottom of the screen, like in Dark Souls 2, so we are forced 16:9. Oh, and before I forget, remember to go to the 3 dots and put the frame limit to 60, because this game does not go above 60 FPS, so save some battery, put it at 60 Hz. And I'm in Pharaoh Keep, one of the toxic waste locations in the game. And I'm doing this for performance reasons. Usually there are some effects on screen when I attack some of the larger enemies. And when I'm walking in this poison well, as you can see, it drops into the 50s, which is not a big deal in my opinion. But this is not the only area that has some performance drops. There is another one when looking into the distance, and in the DLC, unfortunately, I do not own the DLC. So I'm not going to be able to test those areas. But when it comes to the base game, at least back in the day, I dropped frames very heavily in this location. Especially when I got those phantom attacks. But it seems to be fine now. We seem to be staying above 50 no matter what. Okay, there we dropped for a moment when the enemy started disappearing. Alright, so now we're somewhere else, and as you can see, there is more geometric complexity going on. This usually left me CPU bound when it came to my PC. Even on the Rogue Ally here, I dropped frames quite significantly. But only on the, seems to be a game thing on the CPU. The GPU seems to be used correctly. Again, we're dropping into the 50s in a geometrically complex area. So this area should be harder for the Steam Deck due to the single core thing being used. So yeah, when we get here, it stabilizes rather quickly actually, which is a good thing. But again, if you do not care about those drops, you should be good like this. The only thing that's not fine is my gameplay, but that's okay. That's usually to be expected. So would I recommend 60s here? Yep. I mean, should be okay 90% of the time. But there are sections where it can drop below 60 quite easily, especially more geometrically complex parts like this one. So if you don't want any drops whatsoever, or at least being consistent 99% of the time, going here, and the frame limit, put it at 50, so the game runs at 50 Hz. 99% of the time, even when looking to a distance, it should be at 50. Of course, you're sacrificing the frame rate, and there are some weird spikes in the frame time. But this is another way to do it, and the flickering is only because of the camera. The camera is not nice when locked into 50 FPS. My camera records at 60, that's why this looks like it's flickering. It's not. But as you can see, 99% of the time we're good on the 50s. If you get to a more demanding place, do like I said in the Sekiro video, unlock it to 45. I don't think that would be necessary on this one, honestly. 50s seems to be about right. And it tests there pretty well, feels pretty smooth. So would I recommend the Dark Souls franchise on the Steam Deck OLED? Definitely. I mean, all the 3 games run right out of the box. I just did a few adjustments to Dark Souls 3. But Dark Souls 1 and 2 lock 60s across the board, 3.5 hours for Dark Souls 1, 4.5 to 5 hours on Dark Souls 2. And on Dark Souls 3, it's basically 4 hours of battery if you lock it to 50. So if you don't want any drops in performance, 50 Hz should be the way to go. Just again, for consistency's sake, you can also play it at 60. But in certain sections, when you look into the distance and there is a lot of detail, like in one of the big cities, or in one of the toxic waste levels, in one of the swamps, better said, you're going to get drops below that 60 FPS. So you're going to see some judder here and there. In my opinion, not a big deal. If you can do 50s, it will be even better, just because consistency. But you can also put it at 60 and 90% of the time it should be okay. Again, just in those toxic waste environments and other city locations should drop. But at the start of the game, you'll be just fine. It's not a demanding thing. So man, I love the future. I now can play every Dark Souls on the go, so I can be even more stressed than I usually are when I'm on the street. That's absolutely perfect. And yeah, I mean, I used to need an entire computer to play this, and I don't know why I cannot go back this way. But now I can play it in the palm of my hand. So that's pretty damn cool. So using this plus Elden Ring, you have a lot of Dark Souls, all Souls-ish stuff to go through. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did showing up with the Dark Souls Trilogy on the Steam Deck. If you want to see how it runs on the ROG Ally or the LCD Steam Deck, there is links in the pinned comment. But it's super impressive in my opinion. I still cannot believe that I'm playing this in a handheld. So thank you for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys, thanks for watching.